Golden Cage and the Dark Secret. To understand the scale of this tragedy, you must first understand the scale of the wealth. Imagine a family so wealthy that they owned not just palaces, but entire cities. They owned the trains, the mines, the vast forests of Siberia, and the millions of souls who lived there.
Welcome to History's Echo, where we uncover the forgotten brilliance of civilizations long past.
The Golden Cage and the Dark Secret. To understand the scale of this tragedy, you must first understand the scale of the wealth. Imagine a family so wealthy that they owned not just palaces, but entire cities. They owned the trains, the mines, the vast forests of Siberia, and the millions of souls who lived there. This was the House of Romanov in 1913. To celebrate their 300th year of ruling Russia, Tsar Nicholas II and his family toured the country. Crowds cheered, church bells rang, and millions of peasants bowed in the snow. From the outside, they looked untouchable. Gods walking among men. Nicholas was the little father. His wife Alexandra was the empress, and their 4 beautiful daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, were the jewels of the empire. And then there was the heir, the baby boy, Alexei. But behind the walls of the Winter Palace, the air was thick with terror. The dynasty had a secret, one they guarded with their lives. The little prince, the future of the empire, was dying. Alexei had inherited a genetic curse known as hemophilia. His blood would not clot. A simple nosebleed could kill him. A bruise on his knee could leave him in agony for weeks. The doctors were helpless. The most powerful parents on earth could buy anything except a cure for their son. Driven mad by grief and fear, the Empress Alexandra turned away from science and looked toward the supernatural. She began to pray for a miracle. And in 1905, the devil answered. Into the marble halls of the palace walked a peasant from Siberia. His name was Grigory Rasputin. He was filthy. He smelled of goats and old wine. His beard was tangled with food, and his fingernails were black with dirt. But his eyes... Historians say his eyes were pale, hypnotic, and terrifying. He called himself a holy man, a starets. The elite of Russia called him the Mad Monk. The moment he entered the prince's room, something impossible happened. When Rasputin touched the boy and prayed, the bleeding stopped. The pain vanished. Was it hypnosis? Was it coincidence? Or was it dark magic? To the Empress, it didn't matter. She believed this dirty peasant was sent by God. She gave him access to everything. Soon, Rasputin wasn't just healing the boy, he was influencing the state. He replaced ministers with his drinking buddies. He whispered in the Empress's ear. He spent his nights in the brothels of St. Petersburg, drinking until dawn and bragging that he held the Russian Empire in the palm of his hand. The rumors spread like wildfire. The people whispered that the Empress was sleeping with the monk. They whispered that the Tsar was a puppet. The golden image of the Romanovs began to rot from the inside. The poison, the gun, and the river. By 1916, the world was on fire. World War I had erupted, and Russia was bleeding. Tsar Nicholas II made a fatal mistake. He left the capital to command the army on the front lines. He left the government in the hands of his wife, Alexandra, and by extension, in the hands of Rasputin. It was a disaster. While millions of Russian soldiers died in the freezing mud without boots or ammunition, Rasputin was firing competent generals and hiring incompetents. The Russian nobility realized that if Rasputin didn't die, Russia would fall. A plot was hatched by the wealthiest man in Russia, Prince Felix Yusupov. He was the Tsar's nephew-in-law, a young, handsome aristocrat who decided to take matters into his own hands. The night of December 29, 1916, is perhaps the most cinematic murder in history. Prince Yusupov invited Rasputin to his palace for a midnight party, promising him that his beautiful wife would be there. In a basement room, soundproofed with heavy rugs, Yusupov offered Rasputin cakes and wine. They were laced with enough cyanide to kill 5 elephants. Rasputin ate the cakes. He drank the wine. Yusupov watched, terrified, waiting for the monk to drop dead. But Rasputin didn't die. He just asked for more wine, playing his guitar and singing strange Siberian folk songs. Panic set in. Yusupov pulled out a revolver and shot Rasputin point blank in the chest. The giant man fell. The conspirators celebrated. But an hour later, when Yusupov went to check the body, the corpse opened its eyes. Rasputin leaped up, roaring like a demon, and strangled the prince. He broke free and ran out into the snowy courtyard, screaming that he would tell the empress everything. The conspirators chased him, shooting him 2 more times. Once in the back, once in the head. Finally, they tied his hands and threw his body into the freezing Neva River, through a hole in the ice. When the body was found days later, the autopsy revealed a chilling detail. There was water in his lungs. The poison didn't kill him. The bullets didn't kill him. He had died of drowning, fighting to untie the ropes under the ice until the very last second. But before he died, Rasputin had written a letter to the Tsar. It was a prophecy. If I am killed by common men, you and your children will rule Russia for centuries. But if I am killed by your relations, by the nobility, then no one of your family will remain alive for more than 2 years. The House of Special Purpose. The prophecy came true with terrifying speed. Without Rasputin holding the pain of the prince at bay, and with the war destroying the economy, the Russian people finally snapped. In 1917, the revolution began. The hungry, angry masses flooded the streets. The army turned against the Tsar. Nicholas II was forced to abdicate the throne. The 300-year dynasty ended in a single afternoon. But the nightmare was just beginning for the family. The new Bolshevik government arrested them. They were moved from palace to palace, each one smaller and colder than the last, until they ended up in the harsh Siberian town of Yekaterinburg. They were imprisoned in a place with a chilling name, the House of Special Purpose. The windows were painted white so they couldn't see out. High fences were built. The guards were cruel, drawing obscene pictures of the Queen on the bathroom walls. Yet the family stayed together. Nicholas chopped wood for exercise. The girls put on plays to cheer up their sick brother. They sewed their vast collection of diamonds and jewels into the lining of their corsets and underwear, hoping to use them as bribes to escape one day. But escape would never come. On the night of July 16, 1918, the family was woken up at 2 a.m. The commander told them there was unrest in the town and they needed to be moved to the basement for their own safety. Nicholas carried his sickly son Alexei in his arms. The empress walked proudly. The 4 girls followed, clutching their small pillows. They were led into a small, empty room in the cellar. They asked for chairs. 2 were brought, one for the Tsar, one for the empress. The children stood behind them. Suddenly, a dozen armed men burst into the room. The commander, Yakov Yurovsky, read a quick order. Your relations have tried to save you. They have failed, and now we must shoot you. Nicholas looked up, confused, and said, What? What? Those were his last words. The guards opened fire. The room filled with smoke and the deafening roar of gunshots. But then something horrific happened. The bullets began to ricochet. They were bouncing off the girls. The executioners were terrified, thinking the princesses were protected by divine magic. In reality, the pounds of diamonds sewn into their corsets were acting as bulletproof armor. The slaughter turned messy and brutal. It took 20 minutes of horror to finish the deed. When the smoke cleared, the Romanov line was extinguished. The bodies were taken into the forest, burned with acid, and buried in a secret pit, lost to history for decades. For 70 years, the Soviet Union denied the crime. But history cannot be buried forever. In the 1990s, the bones were found. DNA testing confirmed the identity of the Tsar, the Empress, and their children. They were finally laid to rest in St. Petersburg, burying the ghosts of the past. The story of the Romanovs is a warning. It is a story of how supreme power can be dismantled by supreme ignorance. It is a reminder that no amount of gold can stop the turning of the tide, and that sometimes the end of an era comes not with a glorious battle, but in a dark basement, in the middle of the night. This has been History's Echo. The past is never truly gone. It just waits to be uncovered. If this story moved you, please share it with a friend and subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of history. What empire should we explore next? Let us know in the comments.